Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to Jersey City, New Jersey, in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood, Brent.
Alliance Assemble. Volume 114. We've got another episode of Miss Marvel and some, basically we call this, as it becomes the, we're marching towards Thor Love and Thunder. You know, we're 2 weeks away.
Premiere's going on right now as we speak, and I'm ignoring all of it. I don't want to see anything. I'm like, nope, it doesn't exist in my world.
and that's the good thing. That's why I was excited when Travis put that in our group chat saying, just FYI, the embargo goes up. It's a good thing we're doing a show right now. So if those of you are watching this show and joining the live chat, please, no spoilers, as we like to say. We want to keep ours and yours, but keep that out of the chat at that point. But hey, maybe we'll get a few. They like doing those red carpet kind of surprise confirmations. So those, unfortunately, I don't think we will be unable to ignore. So
I will do my best to.
We'll try. So, but all right, how was your week going so far, Brent?
The week was good. You know, I can't complain too much. I been doing some Thor prep, if you will. Been watching some movies that I'm getting ready for that, and excited once I'm done with all those. I'm gonna revisit Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, since it's I want to say it's finally out, but it's out earlier than every other Disney or Marvel movie has been. So regardless, it's out on Disney Plus this week, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's been I've been in 4 straight days of professional development, and so it's been very educational. But if
you can't say it, but I will.
Okay, you can say it, but I actually said it. Actually, a number of parts were quite educational. But in what I am looking forward to is I'm going to Heroes Comic-Con convention starting tomorrow or Friday if you're listening to this at this point. But I've got 3 days of many great names, from Claremont to Starlin to Jonathan Hickman. I'm going to be living it up and meeting some of my fellow YouTubers and comic collectors there as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
I need pictures.
I will definitely send pictures, and I think we might be talking about it next week. So we may be.
I hope so.
But all right, so let us get the network plugs out of the way so we can get into the show. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 8 shows. On Mondays, alternating bi-weekly, we got Ranger Alliance and Slice of Film. Tuesdays, we got DC Alliance superhero discussions on Wednesdays. Star Wars Alliance on Thursdays. This show on Fridays. A walk through the multiverse, alternating bi-weekly on Saturday. But as Joe is covering The Boys, it has moved to Sunday through the rest of the season for that, so be on the lookout for that. And then my show, World's Finest True Believers, is typically Sundays monthly, but because Joe has taken over the Sunday slot for this week, my new episode of World's Finest True Believers will be dropping this Saturday morning, so be on the lookout for that. We've got a returning guest, so hope you all enjoy that. And DC Alliance goes live on the Geekverse YouTube channel on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Star Wars Alliance on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Marvel Alliance on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and all 3 of those have a solo feed separate for the GUA feed. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we got 2 tiers. $1 tier is our tip jar saying, hey, you think we're doing a good job, and our $5 tier, which is our ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and our Patreon-exclusive shows. Brent, we are dropping something for the patrons next week. What are we dropping?
We are dropping Thor. Such great timing. Such wonderful timing. Look for that early on Monday morning.
And we plan that for you, for the patrons, because we love you. We can't do this without your support. And we do have 2 new patrons on it. We have Charlie and Joe. Charlie and Joe, we want to thank you so much for joining the GUA. We hope you're enjoying all that content. Again, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. And if you can't join us on Patreon, we totally understand. But if you can take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed and GUA feed on Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever podcatcher your choice may be. And last but not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover and collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, shipped around the world. They are currently doing a summer sale where if you use the summer sale code coupon code at that point, you get an additional 14% off, basically making almost everything in the summer sale 50% off or a little bit more. So those are some really good deals on some Marvel books, DC books that they're trying to clear out at this point. So take advantage of that. Goes through the end of June. Use that code MarvelGU at checkout for $2 off every single order. Again, thank you so much, Organic Price Books, for being our official sponsor. All right, so got through those pretty quick. And I think I forgot to put in our notes, but I think we have one more programming note to get out of the way for the next 2 weeks. We will be moving to Wednesday nights for the next 2 weeks. One is selfishly because of me. Next week, I will be going on vacation when we usually record on Thursdays. So we will be moving to Wednesday night at our normal scheduled time. So we'll be going live for that. And then Brent will be moving the show and will be more than likely, I'm guessing Mr. Snell will be making his monthly appearance to take over for my slot on the week of Thor, Love and Thunder review. So that is also why we're moving to Wednesday. For the next 2 weeks, again, we'll be going to Wednesday night. So we want to thank, I did alert Star Wars Alliance. They're good with that. So we won't be invading any of their time.
Thankfully, Kenobi just wrapped up.
Yes, thankfully. Yeah. They thought it was going to be, they thought it was going to be this week. I said, no, you still you got Kenobi all to yourself.
even if it was this week, they got Kenobi. But
yeah.
Yes. And then of course, that second week, we'll also have that Friday night recording for a Thor, Love and Thunder review.
Yeah, we are very excited. So I will be coming back from vacation on preview night, but I have already got my tickets booked. So as soon as I unpack, get everyone settled at that point, I'm heading to the movies at 7:10 or 7:30. I can't remember, but it's in that 7 o'clock range.
So what I hear is you're going to drive by your house, throw the family out of the car, and roll onto the movie theater. Perfect.
No, I will kindly take my children out of the car, escort my wife and the kids into the house, get into my car, and then go to the movies.
There you go. Hey, whatever it takes.
Yes, exactly. Whatever it takes. So, all right. So we've got episode 3 of Miss Marvel entitled Destined. So, non-spoiler thoughts. First, Brent, what did you think?
Non-spoiler Miss Marvel. You know what? I really enjoyed this episode quite a bit. Maybe not as much as the last two. It really just felt like there was less character work this week. The character work that was there was excellent, though. It just seemed like there was less of it, probably because, we got our first real significant action scene. And in that action scene, I'm a little hot and cold about it. There's stuff that I really liked, but there's a couple things that were wonky. Let's use the word wonky at best. So just some odd cuts and some odd edits, if you will. So overall, good, solid episode. Very interesting finish to it. Halfway through the season already, and I'm still very excited to see where this one's going to go.
Yeah, I can understand your perspective on like new character development. What I really enjoyed about this is a lot of introspection, particularly when it comes to Kamala, and dealing with what she thought. And I'll point this out a number of times in our breakdown of that the fantasy world that she thought being a superhero has some real consequences and some personal consequences that beyond what happens at the end of the episode, but that she is suddenly realizing is, and I will definitely be relating it to a certain wall crawler that has had to, let's just say, go through some similar consequences that she is having to wrestle with right now. Mm-hmm. But again, even though I understand that, I still enjoyed the episode. It was nice to basically get a confirmation of what we were very much, pretty much feeling at the end of last episode. We have now seen our villain.
I think so. I think so. I guess there's possibly a scenario maybe where we didn't, but I'm pretty sure this is it.
Yeah.
Which I like the stakes. I like where the stakes are. This is lower tier. This isn't end of the world. I like that. Yes,
and I definitely agree. We've had a lot of end of the world, higher tier things going on in the MCU. Not necessarily with the shows, but definitely it's nice to. Again, I have used this term before, and I mean this in all the compliment. This has been a nice palate cleanser for some of the MCU shows that we've had in the past. And it's been very refreshing. Iman Vellani still is killing it in this show. She's doing great, as well as the supporting cast. So, but all right, anything else before we go to our first ad break?
No, let's get to it.
All right, so as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so I'll give you that 3 count before they come on so you can turn that volume down. 3, 2, 1, we'll be right back. And we are back. So we open with the episode with a title card, we open in British occupied India in 1942. So this is 5 years before India and Pakistan gained independence, which is also 5 years before the partition. So the last episode, they did talk about the partition and kind of how that ties into the family legacy. So this group, who we will later find out are the Jinn, and they are Jinn, are looking for 2 bangles that will allow them to return to their dimension. I'm starting to feel like, we've gone back and forth that these could be either quantum bands, these bangles, the MCU version of quantum bands, or the nega bands. This episode leads me to believe this might be the nega bands, because in the comics, Captain Marvel used these bands would transport him to the negative zone, which is where he would alternate between when he hit the bands together, Rick Jones would be transported and Marvel would come into being. And it would obviously amplify his powers. But remember, Marvel is Kree, and the arm they take off the bangle they find is blue. So could it be Kree, or could it be another Jinn? Because a lot of times Jinn, or they'll even say like genies, have been portrayed with blue skin in pop culture, or even in different portrayals of them.
I'll be honest, I never really considered that, mainly because I feel like they would have been like, oh my gosh, it's so-and-so's arm. There's not so many of them that they don't know everyone. And if one of them was blue, well, one, why are none of the others blue? They're all, earth colors, if you will. And blue, the connections with the Kree, to me, that's probably Kree. And I agree, the Nega Band, if that's what they're going with, it's got to be the front runner at this point, right?
Now it is, in my opinion.
I know there's people thinking that the other bangle may have been changed into the 10 rings that we see in Shang-Chi, because there is an overhead shot and you see the 10 ring symbol around them. Awesome. I love that connection. I love that they're doing that. And if they want to connect, keep in mind Shang-Chi, his mom lived in another dimension, right? And that could be like what the Jinn are here, the clandestines are here. But if they want to connect things that way, cool. I'm all in favor of that. I just don't think it's the same, because they were acting like that other bangle, that there was a good chance it would have been there in 1942. Win Wu had those 10 rings hundreds of years.
Correct.
Right?
And people say, well, why would there be like this symbol on the ground? Well, again, to your point, Wen Wu's been around for a while. It's not hard to comprehend that there would be a temple worshiping Wen Wu in the 10 rings. Or it could just be a base of operation that they had at one point.
Yeah, exactly, because they had bases all around. Like, they were infiltrating all throughout Earth, basically. So I don't think the 10 rings are directly related in the sense of that's the missing bangle. They somehow connect together and make the second. But they may still come from a similar source. That I think is possible.
Well, even kind of going that way, so the rings glow very similarly to how the bangle does when someone from Earth uses it. So I can see where some people are seeing connections there. But remember, as you said, the people from Talo are from another dimension, and they're tasked with protecting our dimension. So the people of Talo are so easily able to command the power of the rings, which means they're linked to the home dimension from Talo. Could the Jinn be a similar species of people, like the people of Talo, who, we'll later find out when they talk to Kamala, they were cast out, but the people of Talo came voluntarily to protect this world.
I won't lie, kind of have the urge to rewatch Shang-Chi right now.
That's not a bad thing.
Was there anything else that, did we miss something? Like, I kind of have the urge. I don't know yet for sure when I will fit it in. I don't know that I will fit it in, to be perfectly honest, because I do have other priorities I'm going for, mainly towards Thor, that I'm not done yet with that rewatch stuff yet. But I am interested in it. I love seeing it. It's just a cool connection. And it's the kind of connection that, like we're watching it with my daughter. This is the first Marvel project she's ever watched, and we're watching it with her. And like she didn't
like
see
on
it.
Disney Plus or any of the movies.
Oh no, she's never seen any of it.
Oh wow, okay.
She tells me there's too many Marvel movies.
Well,
Because she says there's too many superhero movies, and
you're like, you're not my daughter anymore. Leave.
they're not that interesting. Well, thankfully, my son makes up for it with his love for him. But she's watching this one, but no, that Ten Wings reference goes right past her, and that's fine. She still understood everything she needed for this show.
Oh yeah, and when Aaron and I, because Aaron still needs to watch Moon Knight at that point. When we're heading to our vacation, that may be on the list of things to catch up on. So,
That's romantic. I like that.
I know it is. I'm. What can I say? I'm an old softy when it comes to this stuff.
You are. You are.
So, Aisha takes, or Aisha, is it Aisha? Or it's not Aisha, it's Aisha, I believe.
That sounds right.
Takes the band as they run off to avoid the British, who are basically going to shell the cave to collapse it. And Nadia says, "Why should I protect those who betray me?" So it leads me to think that later on, when I guess we should see something else, hopefully later on, of Aisha, is Aisha Kamala's great-grandmother or grandmother?
She was great-grandmother.
Okay.
Sana is grandmother.
Okay, so probably at that point, Nadia might be viewing Aisha as a traitor. So that's something I kind of put that quote out there, pulled that out. I think we're going to come back to that. I think because she would later meet a lowly Earthman, fall in love, and did not want to return to her home dimension. So very similar. Another very similarity to Shang-Chi with his mother.
Mm-hmm. And they had said something like, "We didn't even know that she had a family until you put on the band," or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of when the band came back in, because this isn't directly related to this episode, do you think Kamala's mom knows that she's part Jinn?
I think Kamala, I go back to the first episode, the way she kind of tossed away when the bands came in, she knows something about the bands and knows enough that she's very quick to dismiss it and wants her to do nothing to it. I mean, but she hasn't seen Kamala with the bands on yet. Like, she has not seen that happen.
No, I'm kind of expecting her to see Miss Marvel or Nightlight or Norgirl or whatever name she's going to go by next week.
Yeah.
I'm kind of expecting her to see that and see the bangle on her. It's just, I was just thinking about it. I'm like, Kamala obviously didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if her dad knows. I don't know if her brother knows, but her mom, I think her mom knows something.
I think so too. I think you're definitely right on that. Then flash to the present day, where Nadia reveals that they're from another dimension. They were exiled to Earth. The jinn are a certain type of spirit in Islam that can take the form of an animal or human. Now, Nadia says that they've been called many things: jinn, genies, the unseen. The unseen are actually a callback to a group in the comics as well. She also calls themselves, as you said, the clandestine. And when I heard that, I said, wow, that is one heck of a deep pull from the MCU to do this.
They're trying to see how deep they can go, right? It's like, oh, we've got your Eternals, but hold my beer. We're going clandestine.
I know. At least the Eternals have Jack the King Kirby as the creator of them. So,
right. Only one of the most famous peak creators of all time.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm not knocking the creators. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking the creators of clandestine, but this is how deep we go. Like in Marvel Comics in the 90s, the clandestine were a family of superpowered individuals, descendants from the marriage of Adam Destine, a father figure of the family, and Elaith, a jinn. The pair had many children, and they lived for centuries on Earth after Elaith granted her husband the gift and curse of immortality. Why the clandestine are so interested in Kamala is a very crucial component to this show, and it appears as though Marvel Studios is very. This is how they're leading towards altering Kamala's origin for the MCU, and I know we have a question about our opinion on these origins coming up, which we'll get to later when we wrap this up. But when I heard that, I was like, I know what that is, and I'm like Leo pointing at the screen. It's like, oh, I know that. That's for me. I get that.
there was a part of me that thought when she just starts naming off all these different names, one of them might be Inhumans. And, they might do kind of pull a Chitauri, where I know we now have the Skrulls and the Chitauri in the MCU, but originally the Chitauri was the name of the Skrulls in the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
And then it was thought that they used Chitauri in the Avengers because Skrulls was tied with Fox due to the Fantastic Four licensing. And obviously that really wasn't the case later because they had access to them even without that, without getting the Fantastic Four back. But regardless, I had thought, well, maybe they're kind of combining a couple terms here, But no, they didn't, and that's okay.
Yeah, and again, that's where like things like, oh, well, until they got the Fox stuff, until they got access to other things, they had to retcon some things. Again, I'm okay with that. That's just something that you're going to have to deal with. In canon these days can be loose, and guess what? I accept it.
I mean, we're comic book fans, right? Retcons are what is more comic accurate than a retcon?
Well, DC does it more. DC does it every couple of years, right?
DC, right? They just reboot the whole thing every few years. They should look into that and mimic that maybe. Marvel, they just go with the new number ones every time. So I feel like we're getting Iron Man 1's going to come out again pretty soon.
For crying out loud, what was it? Spider-Man had a new number one when Ben Reilly came back, and with Zeb Wells now on the title, it was a new number one. So
Ben Reilly Spider-Man, I'm loving that stuff.
Oh yeah,
on Marvel Unlimited, I'm loving that stuff.
Oh, it's good. And how far have you gotten? I know, sidebar, how many issues are on there for J.M. DeMatteis' run right now?
On Ben Reilly Spider-Man?
Yeah.
2.
Okay, gotcha.
I've read 2 of them.
Okay.
So yeah, and that one I did not know was set during the Clone Saga, like during the heyday. I was like, oh, this is for me here.
I did not want to ruin that for you. I wanted you to kind of enjoy that. So
I am the target audience for that book.
All right, so getting back to Miss Marvel, they reveal the source of their power is the Noor, which in Arabic means light, but they spin it as an energy forms from another dimension. They also are immortal. None of them are able to use the bangle, but Kamala could. She also hints that Cameron doesn't have his abilities yet, and hopes that someday they will manifest, which, again, in the comics, he does have a bioluminous kind of power set as an Inhuman. So maybe we might see it this season.
Yeah, they kind of hint at it, maybe because we can't access the full power of the bangle because we're not from here. You can, Kamala, because you're here. Maybe Cameron will get something that lets him do it too. Who knows? Maybe he'll turn up the other bangle.
Yeah, exactly. So she leaves, having to think about whether she can actually help them or not. Goes to meet up with Bruno to debate what they should do and about alternate dimensions. When they bring that up, he says they need to look up a book by Dr. Eric Selvig.
Yeah, nice call out there to hear Dr. Eric Selvig's name mentioned. And can I just say, I really appreciated how Bruno was like, I got into Caltech, right? Like, there's a couple things in this episode. Well, there's, what happens with the clandestine at the end of the episode, and let's say their villainous turn. And there's this that I feel like in the past, comic book shows and just television in general would have made both of those things stretch over 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes.
Yeah.
And to come out, and I'm like, no, it's like the next episode they came out, or in the case of Caltech, and this episode in the case of Clandestines. I really appreciated that. It's like we're not wasting time with any of this dramatic irony stuff. We're just getting to it.
Yeah, and especially just because for those of us that have followed and know Dr. Eric Selvig is, and the connection with Thor, how the research that he's done. I mean, this is a very good on-the-nose reference that fits perfectly at that point. But him saying to Kamala, I got into Caltech, I'm going, this is happening. And this is, it's very obvious that this is also him trying to slightly hurt Kamala in a way, in the sense of like, yeah, I'm not always going to be here for you,
Yeah, but at their age, like I was just worried, like, come on, man, don't stay back for her. Like, you're too young for that.
True.
Like,
no.
You guys are like, what, 15, 16 in this show? Like 16, I guess, because they're just trying to get their driving test. It's like, just go to California.
I agree, but he's feeling a little hurt, lovesick kind of at that point, and so he's getting his digs in. Again, typical for the type of show and the type of audience at that point.
Absolutely.
So we flash to Agent Deaver from Damage.
I think Chris just froze.
The Mosque, Kamala's Mosque. Oh, there we go. I lost the.
I think we were frozen for a minute there.
Yeah, we were frozen. So I'll go back, and so that just in case. so Agent Deaver from Damage Control enters the mosque searching for an enhanced individual, but she does not follow Agent Cleary's orders about being respectful because she and the other agents walk in there without taking off their shoes. So that was very, very disrespectful. And then Nakia shows up. At the same time, the mosque's leader is talking to Agent Deaver, and she says, "Hey, wait a minute! You have no legal right to just come in here and demand to search the premises without a warrant."
I love that sequence because Deaver's like, "Oh, did you read that in history class or whatever?" No, Law and Order, but I'm not wrong. It's like I love that response, and she even says, "I'm a new board member, Nakia." And there's this little line in the background. If you listen, it says, "We're still counting the votes." She changes it. It goes, "Perspective, board member," but I like our polling. Yes, so good.
Yeah, I caught that the second time around. That little call out at that point that they're not done counting yet. And so after that, Nakia comes over to see Kamala to tell her what happened, and in the conversation talking about that with Nakia, that she realizes being a hero may actually hurt her community, kind of like Peter was quickly discovering in No Way Home, of that his actions and the people that know are getting hurt by this. But also, this is a good pull from the comics because Nakia also had some very bad first impressions of Ms. Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's clearly, at this point, she doesn't know who they are. She doesn't know that Ms. Marvel and her best friend are the same person, and she's not happy with Ms. Marvel. She thinks she's, causing more harm than good at this point.
Exactly. So Nakia reveals that she actually did win the board election, so good job, Nakia. And they flash to the Mendi ceremony, which is a henna artwork that is drawn on the bride's skin the day before the wedding. And the wife relatives actually get this as well, but not as intricate. Kamala goes outside at some point and talks to the leader of her mosque, who gives a very good quote to her, giving her kind of a little bit of a pep talk, saying, "Good is not a thing you are, Kamala. It's a thing you do."
Love that. Love that.
And she is the third Marvel hero to receive advice from a religious figure. Daredevil, and Cersei. Yep.
That's such a great quote. It's a great scene, and you got to wonder at this point, does he know who she is? Like, has he put it together? Has he figured it out?
No, I don't think
he
so.
Does, but the question popped up, and got to ask, real quick, jumping back into the scene, did you catch where Amir, her brother, comes out and says, "Hey, you're only supposed to steal one pair of shoes"?
Yes.
Did you see the kid before that walk down the stairs with all the shoes in his hand?
Yes, our shoe thief.
And then later, that same boy is wearing the green, I don't remember what it's called, but the green Hulk shirt.
Yep.
And you can see it's too big for him because he's younger, he's smaller.
And that's actually apparently the brother of Amir's wife.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Mm-hmm. So those little things in the background, they're doing a really good job with them. They are making me laugh.
And just so much, and I know we've said it over, but this show has done such a good job of just not shying away from all the cultural relevancy of what's going on. Like, it is right there and things like that. It's a perfect no, but please point me to another MCU show that has done this, that has had the opportunity to do this and has just shied away from it or just not even acknowledged it at all.
It just feels so natural. Like, it just is, like it doesn't feel shoehorned in. It's not like they're living their lives. And that's what makes it so awesome.
And I think what's helped is that this is actually pulled from the first run of the comics. So, I mean, they have good source material to back it up that this was naturally, even though they've made a few changes here and there, but it fits. So, she's also gets a box from Bruno after she says, she talks to, the leader of the mosque, and it's in the box is her new mask that he has spray painted at that point. We go to the Circle Q where Bruno is trying to get some more information on the Jinn, and Kamala's father comes in and to sneak a treat because his wife won't let him have that.
Yeah, yeah.
And provides Bruno basically with the translation of what we already learned from Nadia and the clandestine.
Yeah, and basically, this leads him to. This gives him some reason to not trust them besides jealousy of Cameron.
Kamala then goes to Bruno, and she's considering not being a hero anymore. Basically, also similar to Peter Parker from Far From Home when he was basically considering being done with being Spider-Man at that point. Bruno says that they will need a major power source to send the Jinn home, and says that this is not going to be safe. This is not something that you should do. Something feels wrong about this.
Note about this scene, I saw some criticisms that says, how does this kid read one paper and know how to build this stuff and do these things? I don't think that's what they were saying. I think he was just grasping the general concepts. They still need to work out the details. I mean, he's not Reed Richards. Like, they still need to work out the details. He's just grasping the concept of, if you do this, things might go boom.
Yeah, I mean, we know he has a genius kind of level of intellect. He's very minded in the sense of what is possible with his inventions. But again, it's just like, it's not one of these things that jumps to Tony Stark. And I think they talked about this on the Geekverse review, like Tony Stark jumping and creating time travel as much, because even we have more of a because again, we've been with him for a number of movies. We could see Tony Stark kind of jumping and getting to that idea of breaking the idea of time travel. Bruno, I don't think we can get that far, but I can accept the fact that he knows there's more to this than he's capable of right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we flash to her having a very nice conversation with her mother about feeling trapped, not fitting in, and not knowing what to do. And her mother tells her the story of how hard it was when her and her father came to America, that she never felt like she fit in, not having a grasp of the English, not fitting into the culture, and what saved them was the mosque and the community around the mosque. And this is, again, a big theme of importance about #family and culture, and how important that is to Kamala in her decisions of not only identity, but even though she doesn't agree with her family, she still loves them. She still wants to bring honor to them and wants to still bring honor to her culture. And that's going to play a big part of when we finally see her don her true hero costume.
All right, which episode is it going to be? Is it going to be in episode 5 or the last 20 minutes of episode 6?
I would like to say it's 5.
I would like to say it's 5 too, but I don't know if I can.
I mean, we didn't get the full Sam Wilson reveal until the final episode.
Yeah, I don't think that counts. I mean, kind of does, but like he was still in costume. He was just in his Falcon costume.
Yeah. So
I'm like, it's a little different there, but I don't know. We didn't get the Scarlet Witch costume, but you're right. We didn't get the Captain America costume.
And if it takes us to the final episode, fine. We still get it.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. In the grand scheme of things, I don't care. I'm just, Moon Knight was, even though I know some people like to say Moon Knight wasn't in the Moon Knight show, okay, great, but it was nice because, like, we saw it in the first episode.
Yeah. Eddie Caswell in the chat saying the show has been pretty good. I wasn't too sure about it, but she's linked to because she's linked to Captain Marvel, and don't shun me for this. Not a fan of Captain Marvel at all, the comics or movies, but the show is good, though. That's okay. That is very much okay. So, but glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, there's it's okay. You don't have to like everything.
Yeah, there will be no shunning from us, Eddie. Don't worry about it. So Kamran and Kamala start texting each other, and she says that she's unsure that she wants to help them because of how dangerous, based on what Bruno's conversation. Now, the texting, and there was a lot less of the sense of kind of the graphics in this episode, especially with the text reason. But I want to say I think there's kind of 2 reasons behind this. And I like this. This is coming from Ryan Airy from Screen Crush, and I really liked his 2 proposals on this. One, it is not easy to make these words blend into the environment like in earlier episodes. Mm-hmm. So, number 2, she is seeing the consequences of her action and is not seeing the world through the fantastical lens, and she's taking things more seriously now.
That is exactly how I thought. She was in like this happy-go-lucky place during those earlier scenes, she is not feeling that right now. She is bummed. She is down. She thinks she's failing. She thinks she finally got her dream and that it's not what she thought it would be. No, she's not sure where she's at. That's how I took it anyway.
Yeah, I really like that, and I said, okay, that is a very good explanation, and it really fits how this episode was going.
But I agree, it's not as visually interesting.
Yes,
correct. I will go with that.
We transition to the big wedding day, and Amir is talking with his father, being worried about not having enough money and being prepared, which is similar to the conversation in the comics at that point as well. But it's nice to see. Did they have to put this scene in here? No, they didn't. They didn't have to, but it
was
shows,
delightful.
It was really good because Amir's always been looked at as this perfect son, has everything done, has everything kind of set. He's done everything right. When we see he doesn't have much money. He hasn't done anything right. But I also love, and we'll get to it at that point, the thing that the mom slips in about how they are huge Bon Jovi fans, and if it wasn't for When Slippery When Wet, they might not have had some children at that point.
Yeah, yeah, that was good for a laugh. That joke went right past my daughter.
Thank goodness.
But Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer, fun fact, the only song I've ever done karaoke to.
Oh, we've got it. Maybe one day we'll get evidence on that.
There's no evidence, no existing evidence anyway. It was a long time ago.
We'll see. You never know. We might find that.
It's not online.
So then we head to the actual wedding and the reception. Now, in between this time, we get a scene of Nadia finding Cameron's phone and seeing that she sees the conversation Kamala told him that she's not going to be probably helping them. And that's when Nadia said, fine, we're just going to take them by force. I don't care anymore. I absolutely love the name of the wedding band, Brown Jovi.
Heck yes.
And I agree with them at Geek First. I am upset that we did not see them do a Bon Jovi cover song.
I feel like if they wanted to use Living on a Prayer for that song, cool, awesome. I love that song. Mm-hmm. Do a different one of his songs, cover another one of his songs somewhere in there. And I agree. You're going to have a joke like that, pay it off.
Yeah. Great pre-choreographed dance numbers, which are very much staples of Daisy weddings. And so and I loved it how Kamala found different ways to work in American kind of dancing into her traditional dancing. And it was great. It was absolutely a lot of fun to kind of see that go down. But then the Jinn crashed the party, and it cues up Living on a Prayer, as you said, by Bon Jovi. Kamala pulls the fire alarm to get everyone out, and during the fight, Kamala uses their powers for defense, but it's only when Bruno is hurt we see her go on the offense and see her do her homage to the embiggening with her power set.
So I like this scene. I enjoyed this action scene quite a bit, but one thing I liked was how she was not sure of herself. A lot of times, you end up the hero ends up and they just instinctively start to figure it out, right? She didn't have that. It was all she could do to try to survive. And I appreciated that. I really liked that. But some of the editing in this was weird. This one time she falls on a table and then they move the tablecloth back and she's gone. I'm like, she's not freaking Batman here. She doesn't disappear that way. It was there was a couple weird shots that way, a couple weird editing things. Needed another pass, needed a little cleaned up. But overall, I really appreciate it. And I think it's really important we stress she did not win. She lost that battle. The only reason she got out was damage control showed up. She did not win.
Yeah, and she got lucky in the sense of that, especially, I thought the CG on her powers were pretty good in the sense. I didn't see too much clunkiness with that. Damage control does show up, but they show up with repulsor cannons. Yeah, and
they've got some tech.
They've got that Stark tech coming in. But I want to say this. It's not that they stole the Stark tech, because remember, back in Homecoming, Tony Stark was the one who created the Department of Damage Control. So I don't think that I think they've had this repulsor tech because he developed it for them.
Did they say he created it? I thought he was just working with them.
I think they were working with it.
Splitting hairs, but
I think that he helped develop or at least gave them access to tech like this.
Well, let's ask this question: Is Nick Fury working with Damage Control?
I
He's
don't think
working
so.
with somebody, and it's probably not Shield.
It's Sword.
It might be, and that's my first thought too, considering we last saw him in space. But I gotta wonder if Damage Control happens to be tied in with them. But you would think if they were, they may not have targeted Peter so hard in No Way Home. So
It's
asking
their
questions.
No, it's a good question to ask, but I come back at that with the tactics they're using, how they're coming out hard, and what they're doing at that point makes me think that I'll be old Nick Fury. I think new Nick Fury is skeptical, but I don't know if he could see the writing on the wall. This is not someone that's trying to hurt someone. Damage Control looks like they're trying to hurt someone, but Kamala definitely isn't. But Kamala escapes with Bruno. She uses her powers to block the door, and that's when Nakia suddenly shows up and confronts him about hiding that she was Nightlight to her, and she is not happy at all. But Bruno tells Kamala to get out of there before Damage Control finds them. And then she gets home. Her mom confronts her, saying that one of the aunties said they saw her pull the alarm, and she doesn't answer the question, nor does she say how she's involved with the people who crashed the reception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it does not put her on good footing with anyone in the family right now. But she goes upstairs, gets a call from her grandmother asking, did she see the train too? Because when she's fighting them, Nadia grabs onto the Bengal, and they see this train going towards them. You know, for basically, as we remember from the story of the partition that they told in the last episode. And her grandmother says, did she see the train? And she's like, I saw it too. You and your mother need to come and see me as soon as possible.
So presumably the same train that we talked about in the last episode.
Yes, I very much think so.
Really interesting. I did want to mention one other thing that the Geekverse crew brought up. They didn't understand why when Nakia found out that Kamala had powers with Bruno, when Bruno and Kamala ran out of the building, they didn't understand why she shut the door with her powers at that point. Out of story, yes, it was to get Nakia the thing. But in story, she didn't know if she was being chased or not. Like, that's the only explanation that's needed. It's like she just didn't know if she was being chased. And I think using her powers there made a lot of sense. So I was listening to their review, and I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I wasn't as bothered by that. I can understand where they were coming from, but I just thought like she was looking for her friend and trying to figure out where she was. So, but yeah. So I know we did have a question come in from I think it was from Chris, right?
Yes, it was. It was from Chris Evans. At that Chris Evans. Do you guys think the comics should adopt Kamala's new origin? What do you think?
I know that recently Marvel, the comic character, is having a change in the power set and change of like kind of what her powers are doing. I don't want to reveal too much in the sense of like what that is in case some people are wanting to explore that. So I know her powers have kind of been on the fritz lately. So do I think they need to adopt it? The only reason I hesitate about that, and yes, there is precedent for Marvel, the MCU, coming into Marvel Comics, is that right now, if they can, just like the show right now, the change in the power set is working for the story, I would have to say the comics would have to find not a shoehorned way in to make it doesn't need to be, in my opinion.
My first thought when I read this question was a cop-out. Let's see how the story ends.
And that was another part. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Like, because we haven't seen the full layout of this. In reality, I don't really care. Like, to me, like, Kamala's powers are like, they're not what make her Kamala. And I do kind of like visually tying her closer to Captain Marvel just to make her, even more a Marvel. I do kind of like that. And there's this theory going around that, she's going to get more of her more traditional powers anyway. Because if you look at all the artwork during the end credits and stuff, there's a lot of stuff there that looks like her powers
without, the pretty glowy stuff around them. And in episode two, Bruno mentions that the power appears to come from within her. And so
Yeah.
I'm not convinced still that there's not going to be something else that she can do without the bangle anyway.
Yeah, and we said it before when the stuff started leaking that her powers were going to be different, and people were all up in arms. Again, you can be up in arms about it at that point, but again, as you said, Brent, as you and I have said since that story started leaking, what makes this character great is not her powers. It is who she is. It's what she represents. It's what a lot of people who it is the idea that she said in the show, a little brown girl from New Jersey can save the world. You know? It means a lot to a lot more people than her powers. I doubt the people who are seeing Miss Marvel for the first time and looking up to her that look like Kamala are very much caring that the powers are different. So,
but it would be a little confusing maybe if somebody then ran out and picked up the first issue.
Oh yes.
Or that first trade paperback where they're drawing so much from it would be familiar, the story beats, but her powers would look totally different. They got the spirit of the character, more than right. They got the spirit of the character perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't care what they do with her origin, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah, but it is a very good question to ask, Chris. I think like we said, we may want to revisit this when we wrap up this season or series and kind of see what there. But I think right now where I stand, they don't have to, and if they feel like they need to, as long as they bring it in the idea of not trying to be like the MCU. They need to find a way to do it correctly and honor what was done before. So, but yeah, thank you for the question. And so we've got episode 4 next week. Any thoughts before we head into some quick hits of news?
No, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and take a look at this news.
All right, so let's take our next ad break. So again, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So, first news, as I think you illustriously said when you saw the article on this one, Sony's going to Sony. Sony's Kraven movie confirms departure from Spider-Man comics. This is coming from Variety. In an interview with Variety, Kraven the Hunter star Aaron Taylor Johnson commented on his time as the character and how the film recently finished production. So that's some interesting news. They are done with principal photography. Johnson described the villain or the anti-hero as one of Marvel's most iconic, notorious anti-heroes. Spider-Man's number one rival. That kind of says something. I do like his feelings on that. And noted how it found it thrilling that the character is not an alien or a wizard. He's just a hunter, a human with conviction. However, Johnson then confirmed how he's an animal lover and a protector of the natural world. For some, that might be potentially... they kind of put it as an annoying departure, as the description goes on to directly against the core nature of Kraven as the character in the comics. Being an animal lover does not go well with someone who is known to literally hunting down the biggest game, and he literally wears a lion pelt as a vest. Despite the change, the actor still thinks he's a very, very, very cool character. Johnson finished by revealing that the movie was shot entirely on location. It's unknown why Sony is making this change, but what I did want to call out is Richard Newby. He's a contributor to The Hollywood Reporter, Vulture, AV Club, and in a few tweets he said this, and I liked his perspective. He said, Kraven hasn't hunted game for sport in a long time. He's also been depicted as an anti-hero and was a member of an early iteration of the Avengers. So as far as the source material goes, from judging Taylor Johnson's single quote, nothing has been broken. There's room to move around with the character. There's also more than one Kraven. I'm trying to look at the context of a single quote with reason rather than determine the film's quality now. Assume Sinister Six plans or rage against Sony because some of the MCU ownership fixation. Adaptations make changes to the characters. The changes in and of themselves are not good or bad. The way in which the movie utilizes the changes determines our feelings on quality. I thought that was very well put.
I agree with the overall sentiment of it. But again, go back to what I just said about Kamala. where's the spirit of the character?
Yeah.
And to me, the spirit of the character is he is a big game hunter who then decides to hunt the biggest game of all. Now, I believe in the Sony universe, he's going to see Venom as the biggest game, and he's going to go after Venom ultimately. Maybe not in the Kraven movie, but maybe Venom 3, for example, or somewhere down the line. I find it weird. Like, if he's suddenly like, if he's like, out taking down poachers and stuff like that. Like, I find it a weird change. That doesn't mean they won't tell a story that it works for, but it's an odd change, and it does not feel like you're staying true to the character, at least not yet. And, yeah, sure, a couple random stories here and there. So, okay, you are starting with something. But in general, like the overall basic elements of the character, big game hunter who goes after Spider-Man. Like,
yeah, and that was my introduction to the character too. So yes, little kid me that sees Kraven for the first time in the comics. Yeah, that's what I do. We have not seen his costume yet, though that'll be a very interesting reveal if he is kind of wearing lion pelt, things like that. It's like, okay, could he be someone that was big game hunter and had a change of heart to do something different? Could be like that, Will it still ring true? As you said, we'll just have to see. But again, this is a movie I'm still scratching my head on. Not because when I say scratch my head, it's like, oh, who asked for this? I'm not saying who asked for this. I'm just saying I don't know where they're going with this.
Yeah, we need more. We need to find out more.
So, for those that are counting down, this movie releases January 13th, 2023. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna change our background for this because it's only appropriate when we're talking about the next topic. Why not Mr. Deadpool himself as our new background? So Deadpool 3 writer reveals first plot details for the MCU sequel. So speaking to Bro Bible's post-credit podcast, Deadpool 3 writer Rhett Reese teased the first details for Ryan Reynolds' debut MCU movie. While nothing specific was revealed, Reese said, "It's a wonderful opportunity for fish out of water. Deadpool is a lunatic at the center of a movie. To drop a lunatic into a very sane world, it's straight butter. It's going to be really fun." But in the same chat, Reese and co-writer Paul Winnick also addressed the memes tying back to Sony Pictures' Morbius, admitting they haven't seen either the movie or the memes. However, now that it's on their radar, the two admitted that they'll have to work on in a Morbius joke into Deadpool 3 somehow. So this was more than, they say they didn't reveal, like, that is a really cool idea that he is going to be literally dropped into this new world, new dimension for him, that he's going to find a way to live in this world. That is great.
Yes, perfect. I love everything about it. Deadpool, stranger in a strange land, I guess, again, right? I love this idea.
Oh, and I cannot wait to see him drop in It's Morbin time or something.
It'd be so good if he did. It'd be so good.
It's Deadpool time.
I hope it happens.
Yeah, so it sounds like, again, I like that they're being kind of tongue-in-cheek about this, but it sounds like this movie more and more is going to be happening. So I can't wait for the first MCU movie rated R. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, as I change my background again, we're going to be getting, as Blade has been hinted that they're starting production within the next couple of months. We're going to get more and more casting. Well, here's our next one. Actress Milan Ray is cast as a key character. So according to the direct sources, Milan Ray has been cast as a key character in Marvel Studios' Blade. Specifics about Ray's role, which is unconfirmed by Disney and Marvel, as being kept under wraps. The 14-year-old Ray joins a currently small cast, which includes Marshala Ali and Delroy Lindo and Aaron Pierre at this time. Considering her age, a lot of signs are pointing to her suiting up as Fallon Gray, the daughter of Blade. On page, Gray was written as a 16-year-old popular girl from Oregon whose life is turned upside down when she discovers her vampire hunter lineage, which brings her on a monster hunting adventure with her long-lost father. So, that outside of that, if she's not that, I have no idea.
Yeah, same. It has to be. Maybe they'll change the name or something, but it has to be the daughter of Blade. I'll be genuinely shocked if she's not.
Yeah. So again, as we start leading towards their production, we're going to get more and more confirmations of characters. So, but last story is coming from Mr. Kevin Feige himself. So, he teased. This is coming from Games Radar. Marvel boss teases roadmap reveal coming soon for Phase 5. In an interview with Games Radar, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige teased the future of the MCU, including when fans can start learning about the company's Phase 5 plans. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Brent. Phase 4, if we're tracking what we do know at that point, will be wrapped up around 2024.
Probably.
Maybe if we ever get a Fantastic Four off the ground.
And assuming that truly is the end of Phase 4.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know, we suspect it. We don't know it.
Yeah. Feige stated, as we're nearing the end of Phase 4, so he's saying we're nearing the end of Phase 4, so within the next 2 or 3 years, I think people will start to see where the next saga is going. I think there have been many clues already that are at least apparent to me. Well, of course they better be apparent to you, dude. You're creating the roadmap of where this whole saga is going. But we'll be a little more direct about that in the coming months to set up a plan so audiences who want to see the bigger picture can see a tiny, tiny, tiny bit more of the roadmap. So my guess is he's got to be referring to D23, even though they're going to have, looks like some sort of presence at Comic-Con. I'm pretty sure they're going to save that one for D23.
D23 is the most obvious spot for it. So, and it's not that far away. So.
Yeah, and you know, even with all that said, they've been known to make some random announcements before, such as casually dropping Sean Levy's new Deadpool directing gig. So I mean, we'll probably get a few of those hints, but yeah, I think this is being saved for D23. On the game, Incursion equals Secret Wars at the end of Phase 5. Maybe, I mean that, or they're gonna drag this out to a Phase 6 and make it Endgame like. I think that'll be a long game to play though.
I mean, the last game they played was 10 years, but there's way more projects now, so it will feel longer.
Yeah, you're right. You got a good point there. So, but all right, so that is all the news at that point. So let us head into feedback and Factor Fiction. So as I pull up Factor Fiction, what other, do we have another question?
Yeah, Jim Scroggs sent one in, says Disney Plus had Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness as the latest addition to the watch order, even after Miss Marvel. What's your most controversial groups of movies in your watch order for the MCU? For example, I watched both Guardians movies back-to-back instead of release order, and I put Winter Soldier right before Age of Ultron based on the credit scenes. I don't really have any controversial watch orders. Like, you put the Guardians together, well, if you're going chronologically, that makes sense because they are chronologically back-to-back.
Because, spoiler alert, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, chronologically, that's the way it is. As far as otherwise, I personally don't go based on credit scenes because, I mean, if they match up nicely, great. But if they don't, Captain Marvel, for example, it's not going to jump from Captain Marvel to Endgame. So when they match up, awesome. When they don't, no big deal.
Yeah, I'm the same way on this one, Brent. So sorry, Jim, I don't have really too many controversial things. Now, what I will say is I get controversial when it comes to Star Wars, or I choose a way to do it. Now that the Star Wars universe is kind of more fleshed out, I'll do what some refer to as, at least this version of the machete cut, where I do 4, 5, then go back to 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2 Clone Wars in not release order, but in the right order in the sense of chronologically that Revenge of the Sith back into 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, the
That's
one
a lot.
full watch I've done of Star Wars, I just did chronological because I'd already seen them all at that point, so I just went chronological. But that was only the live action movies also.
And I think if people always say, "What are you going to do with your kids?" I said, I may not do like that exactly, but I am going to start them with 4 and 5.
Well, I think you have to start with 4. Just be wrong not to.
Yeah, it's just certain things land differently than if you already know what's happening. I mean, again, there's nothing wrong. I don't think there's any wrong way necessary to however you watch it, whatever makes you happy at that point. That's fine. I'm not one saying how dare you do that.
Okay, then we're gonna go Kenobi first. And then the Lego Holiday Special.
Ooh.
And then I don't know from there.
That's probably controversial within its sense of that you're probably going to tick off some Star Wars gatekeeper at that point.
I know they don't like Kenobi that much.
Yeah, well, I did, so.
I did.
All right, so, but thank you for sending that in. We really appreciate it. And, all right, so fact or fictions from last week. Number 1, Jane will appear as the mighty Thor in a future Avengers movie. 87% said fact, 13% said fiction. Number 2, the Marvel Legends episode leading into Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, will include Luis-style recap. This one was very divided. At one point, it was 50-50 until the very end. 52% said fact, 48% said fiction. The Dark Bat 24 says, I'll be disappointed if there isn't one.
S-Bubs did send a link on YouTube related to
he did?
the last recap. Yeah.
I'll have to catch that link then. Number 3, Daredevil and Kingpin will be announced as part of the Echo series at D23 in 2022. 56% said fact, 44% said fiction. All right. Here are mine for this week. First one, as we head into Thor: Love and Thunder, I will do one for that. Gore the God Butcher will not be killed in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Fiction. He's going down.
Yeah, I will also say fiction, especially with the comments that Christian Bale said he didn't know what he was signing. He didn't know what an MCU was. So he just thought he was signing up for a fun Taika Waititi movie. And I said, I believe you, but I don't believe you at the same time.
I mean, whenever actors say this kind of thing, I never really believe them. He knows what the MCU is.
Yeah. Like I said, I believe him, but I don't believe him. I'm not saying he watches the movies, but I also don't think like you have an agent for a reason. They're not pushing a project on you that that you should do. I'm glad you like Taika though. All right, next one. In the Thunderbolts movie, there will be 2 new team members in the group that we have not seen before in the MCU, and that includes movie and Disney Plus.
2 new Thunderbolts that we've basically their introduction will be in the Thunderbolts.
Yes.
Fact. That feels very plausible.
Yeah, and I didn't want to do one. One's too easy. I did 2 just because, again, it's one of those things that you have to. It's great if you have everyone there, but then you have. There's always something like that. Someone's gonna be a show stealer, and I think one of those 2 characters could be a show stealer in the sense of, I want to know more about them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely a fact as well. All right, my last one. We will finally get an announcement of a project that many of us have seen the writing on the wall with. We want it to happen. We will finally get our announcement of a Young Avengers Disney Plus series at D23.
Does Champions count?
Yes, Champions. I'll change that to Young Avengers / Champions.
So some sort of youthful team.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Fiction or fact. I mean.
Yeah, and I said Disney Plus because I think that if Miss Marvel is garnering this much positive critical reviews at this point, this is also proof of concept that a youth-oriented show with take it up to the next level as a team could work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but all right, I will post those on Sunday afternoon, so be on the lookout for that. Let us know your thoughts. And all right, well, let us head to Comic Book Club. So this is our final issue of for Annihilation with the Heralds of Galactus #2. So what's going to happen is in a moment we're going to tell you what Brent and I have chosen for our next Comic Book Club, but we are going to go on a Comic Book Club break till after Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yes.
Just because since I'm going on vacation for that one of those episodes, we don't want to start it, then stop it, and then do it. So we're just going to put a pause in Comic Book Club and restart it after Thor: Love and Thunder. So, but the book that we have chosen, and very topical, and we've tossed around this idea, and it's been even there in our voting, but we like it so much enough, we're going to be topical. We are going to do Secret Wars by Jonathan Hickman and Esed Ribic. It is 9 issues that went from May 2015 to January 2016. So this is the Hickman run of Secret Wars. Now, Brent, I'm assuming you've read this at least once.
Yeah.
I definitely have not revisited it since it first came out.
Same. Neither have I.
So definitely with all this stuff talking about incursion, multiverse of madness, everything happening, I think it would be kind of good to kind of let go with the listeners and for maybe some first timers reading it as well. So I'll read the quick synopsis of it. The Marvel Universe is no more. The interdimensional incursions have eliminated each and every alternative universe one by one. And now, despite the best efforts of the scientists, sages, and superhumans, the Marvel Universe and Ultimate Universe have collided and been destroyed. All that exists is the vast, empty cosmos is a single titanic patchwork planet made by fragmented remains of hundreds of devastated Earths, known as Battle World. And the survivors of this multiversal catastrophe all bend their knee to Battle World's master. I'll leave that who that is out right now. What strange creatures inhabit this world, which familiar faces will return, and what happens when Battleworld's various domains go to war. The Marvel Universe is dead, and the victors of the secret wars will determine what comes next.
I think it's a good time for it. It's coming, right? Like everyone thinks it's coming.
Yep, Loki made the first call out of it. Multiverse of Madness basically said that this is happening in a way. We'll have to see. Eddie Caswell says, "Do you guys take suggestions?" I vote Absolute Carnage. Yes, the next one, Eddie, we'll put that on the list. Brent and I kind of have a running list of ideas at that point. So the next one, the listeners do get to choose. So if you're on Twitter, we post that poll to Twitter. So after we get done with Secret Wars, it'll be a listener's choice one. So we'll see what we can find a way to work Absolute Carnage in as one of those choices.
Yeah, I liked Absolute Carnage, so I'd be totally fine with that.
Yeah. All in the game, Sony still hasn't learned the right lessons by letting Tom Hardy be a writer of Venom 3. Just hire. Sorry. You're going to see the conclusion of the Tom Hardy trilogy.
Yep. I was hoping for somebody else to come in to write, but...
Not so much. Oh, well.
I mean, honestly, they're making too much money as is, so why would they rock the boat?
Exactly. Sony's going to Sony, right?
Sony's going to Sony.
All right, so let us get to this final issue of the concluding of the epilogue of Annihilation with the Heralds #2. So... I will go on a limb and say that this was better than the first issue, not by much, but I think I didn't care much for the first story. I definitely enjoyed the Silver Surfer story much more.
I mostly agree. It was definitely better. I did like the first story, but the Silver Surfer story, like of these 4 that we got between these 2 issues, was by far the best. Not even close.
Yeah, and I want to say, I'm going to see who the first story was written by. Okay, both written by Keith Giffen.
Same. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was.
But you know what the difference is, right?
What's
That Silver Surfer story, quite the Galactus splash page.
If you've all been following this one at that point, you know how much Brent and I have been loving these splash pages of Galactus. It's
just been a weird theme that's come up.
but I'll tell you right now, that battle between the two, I don't even know what to call them at this point. I know they have names, but I'm just going to call them the two other the enemies of Galactus and the Silver Surfer. That was one hell of a fight.
Oh yeah, that was great. And what's interesting is I did not realize the scale of those beings until Silver Surfer was upon them. Like I thought they were more in the realm of Silver Surfer sized, not Galactus sized, but no, they were quite large.
Yeah, I thought they were bigger. I didn't think they were as big. Well, I take it back because I think we did see in Annihilation in the past them fighting. Or, no, you may not seen. I may be doing it when I did my reread of the Prelude issues. So
possibly, yeah.
Probably that's what I'm remembering for. So it didn't surprise me as much. But, yeah, and it's just, I like this one because it was basically, this was one of the last things that wasn't really tied up at the end of Annihilation is these two beings that Galactus had imprisoned. We were freed by the Annihilation Wave, and Galactus like, oh, I'm not going to leave them standing around. No, they made the biggest mistake of, he literally said this, they made the mistake of going to war with me, so you're going to put an end to them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But since you liked the first story, yeah, what were some of your feelings? Because I have really nothing too much to say about the first story.
I just thought it was interesting how Firelord was, he showed some mercy, kind of. Like, he was all about killing all
True.
these beings, and then the one guy's like, no, like, we agree. Like, we were wrong. They are still wrong. We're hunting them down, too. And I kind of like the threat. He's like, I'm watching you. Like, don't step out of line or I'll get... I found it more interesting, more compelling, and visually, just Firelord I've always thought looked really cool. So.
Oh yeah, visually he's a very cool character in that sense, and he's one of the ones that I say, oh yeah, he was a Herald of Galactus at one point. I don't know why I forget him, but he carries that weight pretty well. So, but all right, so like we said, Comic Book Corner is taking a 2-week break, and actually, besides, as you know, Secret Wars is on Marvel Unlimited. And no, Brent and I will not be doing any of the tie-ins because there are this is probably one of the ones that if and when, I'm not saying if, when they do an omnibus of this, I will be very surprised in the sense of how many tie-ins are the number. I think that's one of the ones that had the most tie-ins.
Yeah, and I definitely did not read them all when it first came out.
Yeah, so but if you all want to, as you're reading it through, I mean it's just Battle World is divided up into all these different realms and ideas of characters. I mean, there's a whole Marvel Zombies one, there's an Age of Ultron one. I mean, there's a original Secret Wars section. So they definitely had some fun with it. But yeah, so we'll start that in 2 weeks. And actually, if you are a subscriber too, even though it's getting a lot of hate and everything like that, a lot of it's deserved. If you are a subscriber to Comixology Unlimited or Kindle Unlimited, this is one of those that you can get without paying anything extra for. So just wanted to put that out there for those listeners that still do that.
Perfect.
All right, so volume 114 in the books. So we're gonna bring this episode to a close. So Brent, why don't you tell people how they can follow you?
Yeah, BrentTech Prime on Twitter and on TikTok, and that's usually where I hang out.
Yep. So you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balgo. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. Yes, Brent, I am on Twitter now. I mean, I am on Twitter. I am on TikTok now. I'm on TikTok now. I have not created any content because there's no reason for me to share my handle right now. So when and if I decide to start creating content, I'll share that out there. Right now, I'm just enjoying seeing the lovely content you have been praising all this time, Brent. So
it's fun. It's fun.
It is fun. So, but yeah, if I create content,
ridiculous, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we'll see if I start creating content, but right now, nothing. And you can follow this show on, you can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask Factor Fictions, questions, DMs are open. Continue to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever platform of choice may be. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us in the live chat. Hope you enjoy it. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, post-credits. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series has wrapped. The event series has wrapped, even though it says season finale. I don't know if it's changed since they put that out there.
Well, since you said that, now I have to look. But that's actually the first thing I noticed when I was going to watch it yesterday morning.
And knowing that I was having a busy day when both this and Ms. Marvel dropped, I got up a little bit early so I could make sure to get that out there. And, again, yes, we're talking Star Wars on this, but Marvel Comics puts out the Star Wars canon series, so that's how we get away with this.
It does say season finale.
Okay, so we'll see what happens.
Go listen to Star Wars Alliance for their full review.
Full breakdown. We're just going to give you our quick thoughts. So, Brent, what did you think about the series as a whole?
I loved it. I do not understand some of the hate I've seen for it. I think it's ridiculous. This show, they didn't promise us anything other than Kenobi and Vader having another confrontation. Mission accomplished. Everything else was gravy. I loved it.
Brent, I think you said it many times on fans and on this show. Do not let your speculation become your expectation, if I'm quoting you correctly, right?
Yep.
Okay. So if you did not like this show, that's okay. It is okay if it did not meet your expectations. Brent and I, yes, I mean, I agree with Brent. I really enjoyed the show. Did I think it was a perfect show? No. But did I get what I didn't come in with many expectations. I came in with, I think, one expectation. Another fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. That was the only expectation I had for this show. And did it live up to everything I wanted from it? No. But it was still cool, and it still harkened back to some things in some series that I particularly enjoy, like Rebels with the fight between Ahsoka and Vader. I really enjoyed in the sense of seeing what what Order 66 had done to Obi-Wan in the beginning. Those beginning couple of episodes, I'm glad we saw like he had disconnected himself from the Force. He had not a way that he could battle Lord Vader in the way that he could battle when he was at his prime. Like he got taken to task, and I'm kind of glad. Now, did it seem a little quick and easy for him getting revitalized in the back to tank and start getting like more revitalized? Yeah, I mean, but we need to move the story along, so I'm just gonna say that okay, that's something I wasn't necessarily a fan of, but yeah.
It's not lost to me that with Boba Fett, so many people are like, "Oh my God, he's in the back to tank too much." And in this one, more back to tank. We want more. And
we want flashback. Come on.
They did. I mean, everyone was just upset because they thought, "Okay, this is our moment. We're gonna get our Clone Wars flashback now." That's not when it happened. There was a Clone Wars related flashback. I just wasn't
in the battle armor.
This show, it was just so much fun. And can I just say, I liked Reva a lot. I liked Princess Leia a lot. Oh my gosh!
Oh my God!
Girl playing Leia,
oh,
so good.
Goodness gracious, she's awesome. Like the callbacks. Like I posted it in the chat that someone had put out there when in episode 4 when Luke comes in and says, "Hey, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue." And she goes, "Who?" "I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue. I'm with Ben Kenobi." Ben Kenobi. That scene lands so much differently now with what this series brought in. Do these series have a problem when the sense of like, okay, well, Ben Kenobi can't kill Vader in this sequence? They back themselves in a corner that we know Vader's going to survive. Like that's always the problem with it. There are certain things we know they can't do because of that. But would I have liked to have seen Obi-Wan think that he killed Vader, because that's where that final episode was kind of leading us to, in the sense of that he had accepted that he needs to take down Vader at that point. He didn't. And it's just one of those things like, you had an opportunity to take him down and you just walked away at that point. It's like,
that's what he does.
Yeah, I mean, you just walked away. It's like, come on, man. At least I could rationalize it that you thought Vader was dead, because then when they're on the Death Star, he goes, I haven't felt like, what is it? Vader says, I haven't felt a presence like this there. And then Ben feeling like he hasn't felt Vader. That, like, I could have totally thought that if Ben had thought he had killed Vader, for the benefit, not just for revenge, because I don't see Obi-Wan doing it for revenge. It's taking down the person that's a scourge on the galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, the whole prequel thing, like, oh, they can't kill each other. We know it's not. I mean, realistically, most of the time you're never that worried about the hero anyway in a TV show. And depending on who the villain is, even then you're not that worried about it. To me, it's like, we know where they're going, yes, but how about we tell this story? Like the whole point of the Clone Wars cartoon show is like, tell us more stories in this time frame, just fill in some holes and like just let us live in that world in that time a little more. For this, mission accomplished. And for me, overall, I haven't definitively decided where I would personally rank it for Star Wars, but I loved it. And I will tell you this, it's right next to Mando. So it's either number 1 or number 2 for me. Because going into this, Mando was my number 1. So.
Yeah, I think Mando's still my number 1, just because, again, it's I know there's more Mando coming, so it has that edge on the sense of there's still more story. Yes, there's still some story you could do with Obi-Wan. Would I love a season 2? Yes. But I agree, like Eddie's saying, now he wants a Vader series. And I think Star Wars Alliance, because they do talk about this in the sense of, for those of us that read the comics and the Vader series, I have loved almost every single Vader series that has come out at that point. they're really trying to not do too much. Yes, the comics are quote unquote canon, but they're trying not to take if they're going to do one, they're going to try to not to do so much from the comic and bringing it to live action. They may do some things, but a lot of things they want to leave to the comic, and that makes it difficult. Doesn't mean that they can't create good stories, though.
One of the Vader comics, and I haven't read them all, but I know it was basically about him hunting other Jedi, like former Jedi.
Yeah, that's the Charles Soule run.
You know what? I'm gonna say this: just adapt that, just do that. Like that's fine. And I get the canon.
People want to see Rage Vader more.
Like fight. It doesn't have to be the exact same stories. There's other former Jedi out there. You just make one. You have it. Just have at it. Just let it go. Of course, the show I'm most wanting is the rumored Cal Kestis show at this point.
Oh yes, that's gonna be so much fun. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, even a Reva show, sure. Again,
I'm there.
Again, Star Wars, they've been making some missteps, but right now this show is not one of them. This show was very well done, in my opinion. If you didn't like it, I'm sorry. It didn't live up to your expectations. Guess what? You still got the other stuff that you do like. Hopefully you do like some things at that point, but check out Star Wars Alliance for their full review and breakdown. It's a great episode. They did a great job, Katie and Clay, but we will see you again next Wednesday at 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. All right, catch y'all later. Bye-bye.